Hello guys, this is Michael from the Boardgames Chronicle. Today I have for you another material for Undaunted 2200 Callisto. This material will be slightly different than the usual ones I'm creating. Just a reminder, we already did the first look at overview, so we analyzed the components and basic game mechanics. What I would like to do is answer the question of many fans of Undaunted. Why should I bother with a new installment in the series? What new things this installment is bringing? Exactly, guys. Today we are looking at the new mechanics and new developments in this game. I identified around 9 which distinct this game from the previous games in the series, and I will be going through them in reverse order from the least impacting to the most impacting. And believe me, there is a lot of new interesting stuff in the game. So let's start from the beginning. Number 9, non-historical theme. This is pretty obvious that Undaunted for the first time takes us into the future. So like 200 into the future, and it takes us from the planet Earth to one of the Jupiter moons, Callisto. And this is a very interesting setting because it allows the authors to bring to us a completely new, let's say, story. And honestly, the actual story behind the game is pretty compelling, interesting, and it adds also to the experience. So for the first time, we will not be fighting during Second World War. It will not be Normandy, it will not be North Africa, it will not be Stalingrad, we will not fight during the Battle of Britain. So none of these things. For the first time, we leave the planet Earth and we move to the solar system and 200 years into the future. Number 8, we have pre-produced maps. So guys, for the first time we don't assemble it from the small pieces like in previous installments. These were usually rectangles, or in case of Battle of Britain, these were hexes, big hexes. Here we have a very nice maps with all the spaces marked, with a setup also marked, where it's scouted, where it's controlled, with the victory points pre-printed on the maps, with the defense values on the maps, with the initial setup description on the map, which says, okay, what the yellow faction and what the blue factions of breakers and LFA should put here. Also some explanation about the game mechanics and also the victory conditions. All of this on 8 maps, because they are two-sided, as you can see. This is, for example, scenario 8, this is scenario 7. We have in total 4 such maps, and they are two-sided, so this is 8 scenarios. I really like this development, and also really like the color palette the game went with. This is a black background usually, with various colors on top of it. Usually this is yellow and this is blue. New pre-printed maps, I'm sure they will have as many people who love them and as many people who rather would like to come back to the previous maps, which were much more easier to be used for the fan-made scenarios. But I believe these maps are really cool, really beautiful, and very quick to set up. Also, you have, I believe, more spaces, and they can have a more complicated scenarios. Okay, number 7. We talked about the map. We have a lot of additions to those maps. Those additions are, and let me bring some content. This will be, first of all, we'll have buildings. The buildings will be special structures with an armored value of 5, which will give additional defense to the all personnel who is occupying this hex. They will be pointed out in the setup, and they might be destroyed and score the victory points. We'll have bunkers which have 8 strength, which give 1 victory point and which adds 1 to defense value. Depending on the scenario, we'll have some buildings, we'll have some bunkers. This will also make for a very interesting fan-made scenarios, whether you would like to use it. We'll have pit traps, which can be destroyed for armored value, +1 to defense to the personnel who is occupying this hex, and it prevents our mechanized unit from entering them. There will be very interesting scenarios where the path forward is closed exactly because of them. We have also civilians and we have also prisoners. Civilians and prisoners who can be freed or who have to be freed in order to win the scenario. There will be also doors in some scenarios with an armored strength of 8, which will be closing the paths and through which you will not be able to shoot. With the pre-printed maps and the tons of additional, let's say, elements, buildings, bunkers, civilians, prisoners, doors, the variety of scenarios and missions you have to accomplish will be pretty wide. And as I said, this is a cool stuff also for the fan-made scenarios. Okay, the new development number 6. We are getting, guys, the 4-player mode, and let us jump here inside the box and let's look at some elements here, namely the rulebook. We have the official 4-player mode. I believe we already had some, attempts at having such a mode, but here we have it's very official. Rules for 4 players. There's a full setup, how to play, and there are even components which help here. Let me show you some of them. I'm using some days try to help me to manage it. Cube for me, of course. So for example, we have forces divided in every setup for each of the sides in 2. So if you have 4 players, 1 player takes the force 1 and the other force 2. And we have also the marker, where is it? Here, for whomever is commander at the particular moment in the game. So 4-player mode is here, which is big and which is very enjoyable. And I'm going actually to report the campaign, which I will be playing with my colleagues exactly in the 4-player setup. I believe really great thing. Number 5. This will be even bigger development in the modes you can play. This will be a dedicated solo mode. And now, guys, have a look. This is the basic rule book, this is the scenario book, and this is the solo book. So the solo book has a lot of scenarios and a lot of rules which tells you how to play solo. And the solo book, it's not overly long, like about 8 pages of explanation, and then you have solo play example and jump to actual playing of the scenarios. You have the same 8 scenarios, but then you can play either versus LFA, so versus the blue ones, or either versus the breakers, so the yellow ones. That is why the book is so thick, because each scenario has a basic setup and then setup against LFA and setup against the breakers. Really cool stuff. There are also additional components here, I believe, those letters, which are used in the solo mode. A great addition and a great new development. Number 4. One of the biggest developments, we are getting close to the top 3, are the elevation. Here you can see the elevation, and it also marks the elevation. What the elevation does is actually changes which kind of dice do you use. We have now 3 types of die. You have the standard one, you get used to, so the 10-sided one. And this you use still when you fire from the same level to same level. Example, from here to here. Let me take some units so you can see it better. This mercenary firing from here against this reaper will use the black die. Now, the elevation will change the type of die you are using. So for example, if the stalker would fire at this disruptor from here, he will use the 12-sided die because he has height advantage. Then, if for example that survey tech will be fired upon by this corporate security from the bottom, this unit will use 8-sided die. This is really changing the game mechanics and I would say tempo and what is important on the map and actually the tactical combat. This is a regular tactical combat, but having the height advantage gives you a lot bigger probability of scoring the hit because you still calculate the defense of a unit by checking its base defense, the range, the defense of the area he is occupying, and also there will be possibility to get the defense from the buildings and other stuff. Really huge change and really interesting development from the tactical perspective. We are moving, guys, now to the first 3 biggest changes to the Undaunted series. First and foremost, something which we all were waiting for. This 10 on the die is not scoring automatic hit anymore. The 10 is simply 10. This 12 is not scoring automatic hit, and this maximum, which is here 8, is not an automatic hit. Automatic hits are out of Undaunted games. I hope also for the future ones. This is a very important development. There is no more possibility for you to camp somewhere in the corner and then try to shoot at somebody far away who has, for example, 15, 17 of defense and you can still score a hit on them. No, this game definitely moves the series into the right direction. I really like what authors did. The 10 is simply 10. You need to score above the defense, and if defense is 11, 12, you simply cannot shoot effectively. Really thumbs up for this to the authors. Number 2, as far as the new mechanics and developments are considered, are the mechs. We would have a lot of mechanized units in LFA side, which will, to some extent, will remind you what you have, I believe, was it in Reinforcements or North Africa, where you have also some vehicles. So you will be able to use them and you will be actually getting the gunner, the navigator and the commander for them. You will also have the drilling equipment and hauler on the breaker side, which will be used in the same way. And whenever they are suppressed, you will be using those additional red bottoms. So this is something which is huge. We have a tactical combat in which we will also use mechanized units, and those units, for example, will be adding also the defense to the units they are stacked with, and will have some additional interesting features. I believe this development is worth number 2. But what is number 1? The biggest difference, and for me, the greatest source of joy as far as new mechanics in Undaunted 2200 Callisto is concerned, is asymmetry of factions. Asymmetry of factions is fantastic here. LFA, first of all, the history behind the factions. LFA is a corporation which is mining the Callisto, the Jupiter moon. Breakers, the yellow ones, are the actual miners who are doing the job. At some point in time, there's a huge conflict between the greedy corporation and the actual miners, because the greedy corporation is not willing to, let's say, split the profits they are getting, and they try to squeeze as much as possible from the miners. So very interesting story, and from the beginning we have completely 2 factions with completely 2 different agendas and motivation: money, greed, control, independence, I would say the respect for them, and also being able to have a decent life. This is only one element. The second element would be the units. If you look at the units, Blaster, Haver, Disruptor, Survey Tech, Reaper, Nail Gunner, Scanner, all those units which are on the side of breakers are simply workers, mining workers, using the mining tools to fight. They have completely different tools than corporate security, than stalkers, than mercenaries, or than scout. There's also different variety of those units. You have many more mechanized units on LFA side, types of units, than the personnel. And on the other side, on the breakers side, you have many more personal units than you have the mechanized units. You may ask, what difference does it make? A huge, because also the cards used for the gameplay will be completely different. Example, drill crew will have a possibility to move up to 3 units with them. No such possibility on LFA side. You will have blaster, very deadly against personnel, because it has a blast which attacks all units in the same space. For example, all units here. You will have a disruptor, very good at suppressing also the mech units. All those units here, which you can see, will have some special abilities like Nail Gunner, good at attack and suppression, using the nails simply. You will have Haver with Saw, very good at the attack, but at the close distances and close ranges. On the other hand, you will have LFA units, which has very interesting, first of all the mechs will have captain, navigator, and gunner. You usually start with a captain, and you need to bolster other skills of those very powerful, otherwise powerful units. You will have, for example, CorpSec. CorpSec, corporate security, is your basic unit. Move, control, attack, and attack the structures on the same hex. But you will also get very powerful mercenaries, like here, who can move, control, attack, and on the same hex, very powerful attack against the personnel, but also the structures. For example, there are scenarios where you need to destroy the building. You will have such an interesting toys like drones, which have very high initiative, if you'd like to bid for initiative, and which can do the recon, and what is more important, inspire all those mechanized units. I can, go for ages with stipulating what are the differences between units on both sides, what different cards they have, what different skills, what different even initiatives you will get it. If you add all those things which I presented today, the asymmetry, the new maps, the new theme, the free dice, the no automatic hits on the maximum die rolled, the mechs, buildings, bunkers, civilians, ability to play in solo mode and 4-player mode, I believe the Undaunted 2200 Callisto brings so much new joy and so much new mechanics that it really deserves place on your board game shelf. I'm really liking this, playing with my two boys, 9 and 11 years, and they are having such a blast and fun with this game. And I believe that the veterans of Undaunted series will really find here a lot of fresh materials and mechanics to justify getting, I believe, already the 6th installment of the series. Anyhow, highly recommended, really like it, and believe me, there will be more materials. I would like to show to you also how the solo game looks like and how does it play, because this will be something interesting also for me. For today, that will be all. I'm really glad that I could be with you. If you liked this video, please give thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this, do not hesitate and subscribe. It really helps. That's all for today, and see you in another material. I believe we'll be playing as LFA and Breakers solo to show you this mode.